First contact. The residents of Maplewood Lane were accustomed to quiet evenings and uneventful weekends. Their suburban utopia of manicured lawns and white picket fences rarely saw any excitement beyond the occasional lost dog or block party. So when a blinding light streaked across the sky on a balmy Saturday night, every curtain on the street twitched with curiosity. Sarah Chen, a 32-year-old high school science teacher, was grading papers when she saw the flash. Her first thought was of a meteor, but the trajectory seemed off. As she peered out her living room window, she noticed her neighbors doing the same. Old Mrs. Abernathy across the street had her face practically pressed against the glass, while the rowdy teenagers next door crowded onto their front porch, phones held high to capture whatever might happen next. The light grew brighter, accompanied by a high-pitched whine that set Sarah's teeth on edge. She stepped onto her porch, heart racing as she realized the object, whatever it was, seemed to be heading straight for Maplewood Park at the end of the street. With a thunderous crash that shook the ground, the glowing object disappeared behind the trees. Car alarms blared, and dogs up and down the street began to howl. Sarah found herself moving before she could think better of it, grabbing a flashlight and her first aid kit as she jogged towards the park. As she neared the entrance, she nearly collided with her neighbor, Mike Reeves. The burly construction worker looked pale in the streetlights. "Did you see that?" he asked, falling into step beside her. "What do you think it was?" Sarah shook her head. "I'm not sure, but I want to make sure no one's hurt." They entered the park, the beam of Sarah's flashlight cutting through the darkness. The air smelled of ozone and something else, something alien. As they rounded a bend in the path, they saw it. A sleek, silvery craft about the size of a minivan, half buried in the soft earth of the baseball diamond. "Holy shit," Mike breathed. "It's a goddamn flying saucer." Sarah approached cautiously, her scientific mind racing. The craft was like nothing she'd ever seen, its surface smooth and featureless save for a faint, pulsing glow. As they drew closer, a seam appeared in the side of the craft, and with a hiss of escaping air, a door slid open. Mike grabbed Sarah's arm. "Maybe we should wait for the authorities," he whispered. But Sarah couldn't turn away. This was the moment every scientist dreamed of, first contact with an alien species. She took another step forward, heart pounding. A figure emerged from the craft, humanoid but unmistakably alien. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. 4 arms extended from its torso, ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. But it was the alien's eyes that captivated Sarah, large, almond-shaped, and a deep, swirling purple that seemed to contain galaxies. The alien stumbled, clearly injured from the crash. Without thinking, Sarah rushed forward to help, her training as a first responder kicking in. The alien recoiled at first, then relaxed as Sarah held up her hands in a universal gesture of peace. "It's okay," she said softly. "We want to help." To her amazement, the alien responded in halting English. "Thank you. Apologies for intrusion." Mike joined them, his initial fear giving way to curiosity. "You speak English?" The alien nodded, wincing in pain. "Universal translator, standard equipment. I am Zaxnar of the Galactic Confederation." Sarah helped Zaxnar sit on a nearby bench. "I'm Sarah, and this is Mike. What brought you to Earth?" Zaxnar's eyes darkened. "Pursued by pirates. Lost control. Emergency landing." As Sarah tended to Zaxnar's injuries, mostly bruises and a nasty gash on one arm, she peppered the alien with questions about its home world, its technology, and the Galactic Confederation. Mike, meanwhile, kept watch for any sign of official response to the crash. They learned that Zaxnar was a diplomat on a routine mission when their ship was attacked. Earth wasn't even supposed to be on their flight path, but the damage sustained in the attack had sent them off course. "How long until your people come looking for you?" Mike asked. Zaxnar's shoulders slumped. Uncertain, distress beacon, damaged in crash. Maybe, sometime. Sarah and Mike exchanged glances. They both knew what this meant. They had an alien refugee on their hands, one that would need protection and shelter until rescue arrived. You can stay with me, Sarah offered. I have a spare room, and it's private enough that we might be able to keep you hidden for a while. Zaxnar's eyes widened. You would do this for a stranger from the stars. Mike clapped a hand on the alien's shoulder. Welcome to Earth, buddy. We're not all bad. As they helped Zaxnar to his feet, the sound of sirens filled the air. Someone must have called the authorities. We need to move fast, Sarah said. Can you make it to my house? Zaxnar nodded, determination evident in their stance. Together, the unlikely trio made their way out of the park, sticking to the shadows. Just as they reached Sarah's driveway, a convoy of black SUVs roared past, heading for the park. Sarah quickly ushered Zaxnar inside, her mind reeling at the implications of what they were doing. As she closed the door behind them, Sarah caught Mike's eye. He grinned, a mix of excitement and terror on his face. Well, he said, I guess the neighborhood block party just got a lot more interesting. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. In the space of an hour, their quiet suburban life had been turned upside down. But as she looked at Zaxnar, taking in the wonder and gratitude in those alien eyes, she knew they'd made the right choice. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of an adventure that would change not just their lives, but the course of human history. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity as Sarah and Mike worked to keep Zaxnar hidden, while also learning everything they could about their alien visitor. They took turns keeping watch, with Mike using his construction contacts to monitor the official investigation at the crash site. Zaxnar proved to be an eager student of Earth culture, absorbing information at an astonishing rate. Sarah found herself constantly amazed by the alien's intellect and perspective on the universe. Your species is so young, Zaxnar mused one evening as they watched the news coverage of the meteor strike in the park. Yet you've accomplished so much in such a short time. It's why the Confederation has been watching Earth with great interest. Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. You've been watching us? For how long? Zaxnar's eyes swirled with amusement. Oh, for several of your centuries. We've seen your wars, your triumphs, your struggles to overcome your own nature. It's been fascinating. Mike snorted. I bet we look like a bunch of squabbling toddlers to you guys. Not at all, Zaxnar replied seriously. Your capacity for growth, for adapting to new challenges, is unparalleled in our experience. It's why I'm confident you'll be ready to join the galactic community soon. The implications of that statement hung in the air. Sarah and Mike exchanged glances, the weight of their responsibility settling on their shoulders. They weren't just hiding an alien. They were potentially shaping humanity's first official contact with an advanced civilization. As the days passed, word of the meteor strike spread through the neighborhood. Rumors flew about government agents combing the area, of strange lights seen in the sky. Sarah and Mike did their best to deflect suspicion, but they knew it was only a matter of time before someone put the pieces together. That someone turned out to be Jasmine Rodriguez, the precocious 12-year-old who lived next door to Sarah. One afternoon, as Sarah was sneaking some of Mike's homemade casserole to Zaxnar, she turned to find Jasmine standing in her kitchen, mouth agape. Holy crap, Jasmine breathed. You're hiding an alien. Sarah's mind raced, trying to come up with a plausible explanation. But before she could speak, Zaxnar stepped forward, all four hands raised in a gesture of peace. Hello, young one, the alien said gently. I am Zaxnar. It's a pleasure to meet you. Jasmine's eyes lit up with excitement. This is so cool. Can I ask you questions? Do you have superpowers? Can your spaceship go faster than light? Sarah couldn't help but laugh at the girl's enthusiasm. Slow down, Jasmine. This has to stay a secret, okay? It's very important. Jasmine nodded solemnly. I won't tell anyone, I promise. But can I help? Please. And so their little conspiracy grew. Jasmine proved to be an invaluable ally, her youth and innocence allowing her to gather information and run errands without arousing suspicion. She also brought a fresh perspective to their discussions, her questions often revealing new angles they hadn't considered. As the first week drew to a close, Sarah, Mike, and Jasmine had settled into a routine. They took turns keeping Zaxnar company, sharing meals and swapping stories about their respective cultures. The aliens' presence had brought them closer together, forging an unlikely friendship between a teacher, a construction worker, and a young girl. But their peaceful interlude couldn't last forever. On the 8th day after the crash, as they were all gathered in Sarah's living room watching a documentary about Earth's space program, Zaxnar suddenly stiffened. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked, noticing the alien's distress. Zaxnar's eyes had gone dark, swirling with what Sarah now recognized as fear. "They're coming," the alien whispered. "Who?" Mike demanded. "The government." Zaxnar shook their head. "No. The pirates who attacked my ship. They've tracked me here." The humans exchanged alarmed glances. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "A few days at most," Zaxnar replied. "I'm so sorry. I've put you all in terrible danger." Jasmine, ever the optimist, spoke up. "Don't worry, Zaxnar. We'll figure something out. That's what humans do best, right? We adapt." As they began to plan their next move, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. They were in way over their heads, facing threats both terrestrial and extraterrestrial. But looking around at her unlikely team, a brilliant alien, a tough-as-nails construction worker, and a wit-smart kid, she felt a surge of hope. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And just maybe, they would show both Earth and the stars what humanity was truly capable of. The neighborhood awakens. As dawn broke over Maplewood Lane, an air of tension hung over the once quiet suburb. The crash in the park had shattered the illusion of normalcy, leaving residents on edge and hungry for answers. Little did they know that the true adventure was unfolding right under their noses in Sarah Chen's unassuming two-story home. Inside, Sarah, Mike, Jasmine, and their alien guest Zaxnar huddled around the kitchen table, empty coffee mugs and half-eaten Pop-Tarts scattered between them. They had spent the night brainstorming, trying to come up with a plan to protect Zaxnar from both the incoming space pirates and the increasingly suspicious government agents. "Okay, let's review," Sarah said, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "We need to fix Zaxnar's distress beacon to call for help from the Galactic Confederation, find a way to detect and hopefully repel the pirates, and do it all without attracting attention from our own authorities. Any ideas?" Mike leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful frown on his face. "Well, I might have a solution for the detection part. My buddy Dave works at the local radio observatory. If we could get access to their equipment, we might be able to rig up some kind of early warning system." Zaxnar's eyes swirled with excitement. "Yes, with some modifications, your radio telescopes could be calibrated to detect the unique energy signature of Xyrillian warp drives. It won't give us much warning, but it's better than nothing." Jasmine, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly perked up. "I think I know how we can hide Zaxnar in plain sight." She grabbed her tablet, fingers flying over the screen. "Look, the Maplewood Community Theatre is putting on a sci-fi play next week. We could disguise Zaxnar as an actor in an alien costume." Sarah's eyes widened. "That's actually brilliant, Jasmine. It would give Zaxnar a reason to be seen around town without raising suspicion." As they continued to refine their plan, a knock at the door made them all freeze. Sarah approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. To her surprise, she saw Mrs. Abernathy, the neighborhood gossip, standing on her porch with a suspicious gleam in her eye. Sarah opened the door, plastering on her best fake smile. "Mrs. Abernathy, what a surprise. What can I do for you?" The elderly woman craned her neck, trying to see past Sarah into the house. "Oh, I was just wondering if you'd noticed anything. Unusual lately. There are rumors flying about men in black suits asking questions, and I could have sworn I saw strange lights coming from your windows last night. Sarah's mind raced. They had been careless, letting Zaxnar experiment with some alien technology after dark. She needed a cover story fast. Oh, that. Sarah laughed, perhaps a bit too loudly. My nephew is staying with me for a while. He's really into special effects and has been practicing for the community theater's upcoming Sci-Fi play. You know how kids are with their hobbies. Mrs. Abernathy didn't look entirely convinced, but before she could press further, a commotion down the street caught their attention. A sleek black SUV had pulled up in front of the Rodriguez house, and two men in dark suits were approaching the front door. Sarah's blood ran cold. Had they somehow discovered Jasmine's involvement? Just then, Mike appeared behind her, casually draping an arm over her shoulder. "Everything okay out here, honey?" he asked, playing the part of a concerned boyfriend. Mrs. Abernathy's eyes lit up at this new piece of gossip. "Oh my, I didn't realize you two were an item. How wonderful." Sarah fought the urge to roll her eyes. "Yes, well, we've been keeping it low-key. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some things to take care of." As they closed the door, Sarah and Mike shared a look of mingled amusement and exasperation. "Honey," Sarah mouthed, raising an eyebrow. Mike shrugged, a hint of a blush on his cheeks. "Seemed like a good distraction, but we've got bigger problems. Those agents are definitely not here for a friendly chat." They hurried back to the kitchen, where Jasmine was peering out the window, her face pale. "They're talking to my parents," she whispered. "What if they know about Zaxnar?" Zaxnar placed a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. "Do not fear, young one. Your parents know nothing that could endanger us. But perhaps it is time we took a more proactive approach to our situation." The alien's eyes glowed with determination as they outlined a daring plan. Instead of hiding, they would use the community's curiosity to their advantage. By staging a series of alien sightings around town, they could flood the agents with false leads while building a network of allies among the residents. As they put the plan into motion, Maplewood Lane transformed into a hotspot of extraterrestrial activity. Strange crop circles appeared in Mr. Johnson's prized tomato garden. Eerie lights danced in the sky above the local high school, courtesy of Mike's construction equipment and some clever programming by Jasmine. And mysterious symbols were found etched into the sidewalk outside the community center, Zaxnar's artistic contribution, containing hidden messages for any Confederation rescuers who might be searching. The neighborhood buzzed with excitement and speculation. Facebook groups and online forums exploded with theories, blurry photos, and heated debates. The government agents, initially so focused and intimidating, soon found themselves overwhelmed and confused by the flood of contradictory reports. But amidst the chaos, something unexpected began to happen. The residents of Maplewood Lane, once isolated in their suburban bubbles, started coming together. Block parties were organized to discuss the latest sightings. A neighborhood watch was formed, ostensibly to spot aliens, but really serving to keep an eye out for suspicious government activity. Sarah, Mike, and Jasmine found themselves at the center of it all, carefully guiding the narrative while keeping Zaxnar's true identity secret. They were surprised to discover allies in unexpected places. Old Mrs. Abernathy, it turned out, had been a codebreaker during World War II and offered her expertise in creating ciphers for their hidden messages. Dave from the radio observatory not only helped them modify the equipment, but also began discreetly scanning for unusual signals from space. As the days passed, Zaxnar worked tirelessly to repair the distress beacon, using an odd assortment of Earth technology and scavenged parts from the crashed ship. The aliens' respect for human ingenuity grew with each passing day. "Your species truly is remarkable," Zaxnar commented one evening as they soldered a smartphone's processor into the beacon's circuitry. "In the face of the unknown, you don't cower. You adapt, you innovate, you come together. It's inspiring." Sarah smiled, feeling a swell of pride, not just for her friends and neighbors, but for humanity as a whole. We're not perfect, Zaxnar. We've got our flaws, our fears. But when it really counts, we know how to stand united. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by Jasmine bursting through the door, out of breath and wide-eyed. "Guys, you need to see this." She thrust her tablet in front of them, displaying a grainy video that was quickly going viral. The footage, shaky and dark, showed a group of teenagers in the park after hours. Suddenly, a bright light filled the frame, and for just a moment, the silhouette of a distinctly non-human figure could be seen. Sarah's heart raced. "Is that—" Zaxnar shook their head. "No, I've been here the whole time. But that shape, it's unmistakably Xyrillian." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. The space pirates hadn't just tracked Zaxnar to Earth. They were already here, hiding in plain sight, just like their quarry. Mike was the first to break the silence, his voice grim but determined. "Well, folks, looks like the game just changed. We're not just protecting Zaxnar anymore, we're defending our home." As they gathered around the table, minds racing with new plans and strategies, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. They were in uncharted territory, facing dangers beyond anything they could have imagined. But looking around at her unlikely team, a brilliant alien, a resourceful construction worker, a tech-savvy kid, and now an entire neighborhood of newly minted alien hunters, she felt a surge of hope. The pirates might have advanced technology and interstellar experience on their side, but they were about to learn a crucial lesson: never underestimate the power of human determination, especially when it comes to protecting their own. As night fell over Maplewood Lane, lights flickered in windows up and down the street, not from alien technology, but from neighbors signaling to each other in a code of their own devising. The quiet suburb had become a fortress, its residents united in a secret war that would determine not just their fate, but potentially that of the entire planet. The stage was set for a showdown that would go down in history, if only that history could ever be told. The suburban resistance. As dawn broke over Maplewood Lane, the once sleepy suburb hummed with covert activity. Lawn sprinklers clickety-clacked in Morse code, relaying messages between houses. Children's chalk drawings on driveways concealed star charts and alien symbols. Even the neighborhood's army of garden gnomes had been repositioned, forming a rudimentary early warning system against extraterrestrial incursion. Sarah Chen stood on her porch, sipping coffee from a mug emblazoned with "I want to believe," a gift from Jasmine. She marveled at how quickly her neighbors had adapted to their new reality. In just a few weeks, they'd gone from bickering over hedge heights to coordinating a planet-wide defense against space pirates. Mike showed up, his construction vest hiding cutting-edge scanning equipment cobbled together from spare parts and alien tech. "Morning, Chief," he grinned, the nickname a nod to Sarah's emerging role as the Resistance's de facto leader. "Any news from our lookouts?" Sarah shook her head. All quiet on the Western Front, but Dave at the observatory picked up some strange readings last night. Could be our uninvited guests making a move. They headed inside, where Zaxnar and Jasmine were hunched over the kitchen table, surrounded by a mess of wires, circuit boards, and what looked suspiciously like a disassembled microwave. "Progress?" Sarah asked, eyeing the chaos warily. Zaxnar's eyes swirled with excitement. Indeed, young Jasmine had the brilliant idea of using your primitive yet effective microwave technology to boost the distress beacon's signal. With some modifications, we should be able to punch through the interference the pirates are using to jam communications. Jasmine beamed, her fingers stained with solder and alien hydraulic fluid. "Yeah, and once we get the signal out, we can." She was cut off by a series of sharp raps at the door, not the secret knock used by their allies. Everyone froze, eyes wide. Sarah approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. Her heart sank. "It's Agent Thompson," she whispered. The stern-faced government agent had been a thorn in their side for weeks, asking probing questions and clearly not buying their elaborate cover stories. Sarah opened the door, plastering on her best fake smile. "Agent Thompson, what a surprise. What can I do for you this fine morning?" The agent's steely gaze swept past her, taking in the cluttered living room. "Miss Chen, I think it's time we had a frank discussion about the unusual activities in this neighborhood." Sarah's mind raced, searching for a plausible explanation. But before she could speak, a commotion erupted down the street. Mrs. Abernathy's voice rang out, shrill and panicked. "Oh, land's sakes. My petunias. They're dancing." Agent Thompson's head whipped around, momentarily distracted. Sarah seized the opportunity, grabbing her jacket. "Sounds serious. We'd better check it out." As they hurried down the street, Sarah caught sight of Mike slipping out her back door, no doubt rushing to hide that alien contraband. She silently thanked Mrs. Abernathy for her impeccable timing and commitment to their cause. The scene in Mrs. Abernathy's front yard was pure chaos. Her prized petunias were indeed moving, swaying and twirling in a mesmerizing dance despite the lack of wind. A crowd had gathered, phones out, capturing the inexplicable phenomenon. Agent Thompson pushed through, his face a mask of frustration and disbelief. This is impossible," he muttered. Sarah bit back a smile. The dancing flowers were courtesy of Zaxnar's gravitational manipulation device, a little trick they'd been saving for just such an emergency. As the agent questioned witnesses and examined the gyrating flora, Sarah felt a tug on her sleeve. It was Jasmine, eyes wide with urgency. "We've got a problem," the girl whispered. "The beacons picked up a signal. The pirate ship is entering Earth's atmosphere. They'll be here within hours." Sarah's blood ran cold. They were out of time. The final showdown was upon them, ready or not. She grabbed Mike, who had materialized from the crowd, and they huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. "We need to evacuate the neighborhood," Mike said, "if things go sideways." Sarah nodded grimly. "Agreed, but we can't let the pirates know we're onto them. We need a cover story, something big enough to clear everyone out without raising suspicion." Jasmine's eyes lit up. "I've got it. Remember that old chemical plant on the edge of town? The one that's been abandoned for years?" Mike caught on immediately. A fake chemical leak. Brilliant, kid. They sprang into action, their months of preparation paying off as the neighborhood's hidden network activated. Within an hour, sirens wailed, and official-looking vehicles, courtesy of Mike's construction company contacts, rolled in. Maplewood Lane's residents, clued into the ruse, played their parts perfectly, panicked but orderly, evacuating with the essentials and their secret weapons. As night fell, the suburb stood empty, a ghost town awaiting an otherworldly invasion. But in the surrounding woods and hills, a different scene unfolded. Minivans and SUVs had been converted into mobile command centers. Soccer moms manned makeshift radar stations. Little League coaches distributed homemade energy weapons cobbled together from leaf blowers and alien tech. Sarah stood atop a hill overlooking Maplewood Lane, Zaxnar by her side. The alien's eyes glowed with a mix of emotions, fear, gratitude, and something like pride. "Your people continue to amaze me, Sarah," Zaxnar said softly. "In all my travels, I've never seen a species come together like this, willing to risk everything for a stranger from the stars." Sarah smiled, her gaze sweeping over her friends and neighbors as they made final preparations. "That's the thing about humans, Zaxnar. We're at our best when the odds are against us. And right now," she gestured to the sky, where a faint, ominous light was growing brighter by the second, "those odds are pretty damn long." A hush fell over the gathered humans as the pirate ship breached the clouds, its sleek, predatory form a stark contrast to Zaxnar's crushed vessel. Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "All right, everyone," she called out, her voice carrying across the makeshift resistance camp. "This is it. Everything we've planned for, everything we've built, it all comes down to tonight. We're not just fighting for Zaxnar, or for ourselves. We're fighting for Earth, for humanity's place in the galaxy." She paused, looking each of her improbable soldiers in the eye. Mrs. Abernathy, clutching a rolling pin modified into an energy mace. Dave from the observatory, manning a jury-rigged communications array. Jasmine, her young face set with determination as she calibrated their scavenged weapons. "The pirates think they're dealing with a primitive, helpless planet," Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. "They have no idea what they're in for. We may not have their technology or their experience in space combat, but we have something they could never understand: the strength of human ingenuity, the power of a community united." A cheer went up from the assembled suburbanites turned freedom fighters. Sarah raised her hand, a homemade energy pistol glowing with alien power. "For Maplewood, for Earth, let's show these space pirates what happens when you mess with the wrong planet." As the pirate ship touched down in Maplewood Park, kicking up dust and flattening the beloved community garden, Sarah allowed herself one last moment of doubt. They were a ragtag group of civilians going up against hardened interstellar criminals with technology centuries beyond their own. But then she looked at the faces around her, determined, scared, but undaunted, and she knew that win or lose, humanity would make its mark on the galaxy tonight. The pirates emerged from their ship, confident and sneering, clearly expecting an easy capture. They had no way of knowing that in the surrounding darkness, an entire suburb was lying in wait, armed with leaf-blower cannons, repurposed kitchen appliances, and the unbridled creativity of the human spirit. As the first energy blasts lit up the night sky, turning the quiet park into a battleground that would reshape Earth's destiny, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. It was going to be one hell of a block party. The cul-de-sac crusade. The night sky above Maplewood Lane erupted in a dazzling display of otherworldly fireworks as the suburban resistance clashed with the space pirates. Leaf-blower cannons whirred to life, spewing forth salvos of superheated air infused with Zaxnar's alien tech. Minivan-mounted dish arrays deflected energy blasts with shields cobbled together from satellite dishes and microwave pots. At the heart of the chaos stood Sarah Chen, her science teacher lab coat fluttering dramatically as she barked orders into a walkie-talkie jury-rigged with extraterrestrial components. Mrs. Abernathy, flank left with the opportunities. "Dave, we need that jamming signal boosted now." The pirates, caught off guard by the unexpected and unconventional resistance, scrambled to regroup. Their leader, a towering reptilian creature with iridescent scales, snarled in frustration. "What is this madness? These primitives should be cowering in fear." Mike Reeves, perched atop his modified riding lawnmower-turned-battle tank, let out a whoop as he mowed down a squad of pirate foot soldiers with a barrage of high-velocity garden gnomes. "Welcome to Earth, yes, space lizards. We've been preparing for alien invasions since War of the Worlds." Jasmine Rodriguez, her pigtails bobbing as she darted between makeshift barricades, coordinated the neighborhood kids in a series of guerrilla tactics that would make Sun Tzu proud. "Tommy, deploy the slime cannons." "Sarah, we need covering fire from the treehouse snipers." The battle raged on, a surreal mix of high-tech alien weaponry and improvised suburban arsenals. Agent Thompson, who had insisted on staying despite the chemical leak evacuation, found himself fighting alongside the very people he'd been investigating. Armed with nothing but his service pistol and a healthy dose of disbelief, he took cover behind an overturned barbecue grill. "This is insane," he muttered, ducking as a ray gun blast vaporized a nearby garden hose. "I joined the FBI to catch tax evaders, not fight in an intergalactic war." Sarah slid into cover beside him, her homemade energy pistol smoking. "Welcome to the neighborhood watch, Agent Thompson. Still think we're just a bunch of kooky conspiracy theorists." Before he could reply, a deafening roar filled the air. The pirate ship was powering up its main cannon, a weapon capable of reducing the entire suburb to ash. "Oh, Snapple," Sarah breathed, using her favorite PG-rated expletive. "Zaxnar, please tell me that fancy distress beacon of yours is ready." The alien's voice crackled over the comm system. "Affirmative, Sarah, but we need more power to punch through the atmospheric interference." Jasmine's voice piped up. "I've got an idea. Remember that science fair project on Tesla coils? If we can link up all the car batteries in the neighborhood." What followed was a frenzied scramble as suburbanites turned soldiers raced to implement Jasmine's audacious plan. Minivans were gutted, jumper cables stretched across manicured lawns, and improvised lightning rods erected on rooftops. As the pirate ship's cannon reached full charge, casting an ominous glow over Maplewood Lane, Sarah stood atop the community center, surrounded by a web of crackling electricity. With Zaxnar's beacon in one hand and a jury-rigged power switch in the other, she took a deep breath. "Here goes everything," she muttered, and flipped the switch. The night exploded in a blinding flash of light and energy. Every streetlight for miles shattered, car alarms blared in cacophonous symphony, and a pillar of pure energy shot skyward from the beacon. For a moment, all was silent. Then, with a sound like the universe itself clearing its throat, a massive ship materialized above the battlefield. It dwarfed the pirate vessel, its sleek lines and pulsing lights marking it clearly as a craft of the Galactic Confederation. A booming voice echoed across Maplewood Lane, translating itself into a dozen Earth languages simultaneously. "Attention, criminals. You are in violation of galactic law and trespassing in a protected sector. Stand down immediately." The pirates, caught between the determined Earth resistance and the overwhelming firepower of the Confederation ship, wisely chose to surrender. As Confederation peacekeepers beamed down to secure the pirates, the residents of Maplewood Lane erupted in cheers. Neighbors hugged, children danced, and more than a few impromptu victory barbecues sprang up, once the overturned grills were righted, of course. Sarah found herself at the center of a group hug, squished between Mike, Jasmine, and a very enthusiastic Mrs. Abernathy. Zaxnar approached, eyes swirling with emotion. "Sarah Chen," the alien said solemnly, "you and your people have done the impossible. You've not only saved me but potentially altered the course of galactic history. The Confederation will have no choice but to recognize Earth as a force to be reckoned with." Agent Thompson, looking shell-shocked but determined, stepped forward. "As the official government representative here, I suppose I should. What exactly should I do in this situation?" Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "Well, Agent Thompson, I'd say it's time for Earth to officially say hello to the galaxy. But first," she grinned, surveying the battered but triumphant faces of her neighbors, "I think we've earned one heck of a block party." As the impromptu celebration kicked into high gear, with the bemused Confederation peacekeepers awkwardly accepting offers of hot dogs and potato salad, Sarah took a moment to gaze up at the stars. They no longer seemed distant and unreachable. Instead, they twinkled with the promise of adventure, of a future where humanity would take its place among the cosmic community. Maplewood Lane, this unassuming suburban cul-de-sac, had become the launchpad for Earth's journey to the stars, and as Sarah watched Jasmine excitedly explaining the finer points of a water balloon launcher to a fascinated alien peacekeeper, she knew that the galaxy wasn't ready for what humanity would bring to the cosmic table. After all, if a ragtag group of suburbanites could fight off space pirates with leaf blowers and gumption, imagine what humanity could accomplish once they set their sights on the stars. The cul-de-sac crusade was over, but Earth's greatest adventure was just beginning. Suburban stardust. The weeks following the Battle of Maplewood Lane, as it came to be known in galactic history books, were a whirlwind of activity. Earth's governments scrambled to come to terms with their new reality, while the residents of one particular suburban neighborhood found themselves thrust into the spotlight as unlikely ambassadors to the stars. Sarah Chen's living room had become ground zero for Earth's first interstellar diplomatic mission. Confederation representatives, government officials, and a rotating cast of shell-shocked suburbanites crowded around her coffee table, which now bore the weight of both earth-shattering decisions and Mrs. Abernathy's legendary snickerdoodles. "So, let me get this straight," Agent Thompson said, massaging his temples. "You want to use our cul-de-sac as a model for human-alien integration?" The Confederation diplomat, a willowy being with shimmering, translucent skin, nodded enthusiastically. "Precisely. The resilience, creativity, and adaptability demonstrated by your community is exactly what the Galactic Society needs. We propose turning Maplewood Lane into a pilot program for cultural exchange." Mike leaned back, a bemused grin on his face. "Well, I'll be darned. We went from worrying about property values to becoming an interstellar melting pot." Sarah couldn't help but chuckle. "I guess this gives a whole new meaning to alien neighbors." As the adults hashed out the details, Jasmine was busy leading a group of wide-eyed alien children on a tour of Earth culture. They crowded around her tablet, utterly fascinated by the concept of memes and viral videos. "And this," Jasmine explained, pulling up a classic image, "is what we call a Rick roll. It's an ancient Earth tradition." The alien children chittered in delight, their color-changing skin flickering through a rainbow of hues. One of them, a squat, furry creature with multiple eyes, raised a tentacle. "But why is this human never going to give you up or let you down? Is he a particularly reliable specimen of your species?" Jasmine opened her mouth to explain, then paused, considering. "You know what? That's a really good question." Outside, the neighborhood was undergoing a transformation that would have been unthinkable just a month ago. Zaxnar, now officially appointed as Earth's liaison to the Galactic Confederation, supervised the installation of advanced alien tech that blended seamlessly with suburban aesthetics. Solar panels were replaced with microfusion cells disguised as roof tiles. Holographic lawns eliminated the need for mowing while providing an interactive educational experience about alien flora. And every garage now housed a compact matter replicator, putting an end to last-minute grocery store runs. Mrs. Abernathy, ever the enthusiastic adopter of new technology, had already mastered her replicator. "You simply must try these," she said, offering a plate to a group of bewildered Confederation scientists. "Etherian spice cookies with a hint of quasar dust. The recipe is simply out of this world." She chuckled at her own joke, while the aliens politely sampled her interstellar baking, their expressions a mix of curiosity and mild concern. As evening fell, Sarah found herself sitting on her porch swing, watching the now familiar sight of children from a dozen different species playing an improvised game that seemed to combine elements of tag, quantum physics, and interpretive dance. Mike joined her, handing over a steaming mug of what smelled like coffee but glowed with a faint blue light. "Zaxnar's latest brew," he explained. "Says it'll give us the energy of a supernova without the pesky radiation poisoning." Sarah took a sip, her eyes widening at the explosion of flavors. Wow, Starbucks is going to have some serious competition. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, taking in the scene before them. A group of Confederation engineers was engaged in an intense discussion with Dave from the observatory, gesticulating excitedly at a series of holographic diagrams hovering above the sidewalk. Agent Thompson, looking more relaxed than Sarah had ever seen him, was receiving a crash course in intergalactic law from a floating, book-shaped alien that spoke in rhythmic hums. "You know," Mike said thoughtfully, "when I was a kid dreaming about aliens, I always imagined it'd be more, I don't know, dramatic. Flying saucers over the White House, epic space battles, that sort of thing." Sarah nodded. "Instead, we got PTA meetings with beings from Alpha Centauri and pot-up dinners featuring dishes from across the galaxy." "Gotta say, I like this version better," Mike grinned. "Though I'm still holding out hope for a chance to pilot one of those Confederation starships." As if on cue, a sleek vessel shimmered into view above them, its cloaking device deactivating as it prepared to land in the newly designated Community Spaceport, formerly the Neighborhood Park. The ship's hull was adorned with a familiar logo, golden arches stretching across the stars. Sarah burst out laughing. Is that intergalactic McDonald's? Mike shook his head in wonder. Well, I'll be. Ronald McDonald, First Contact. Now I've seen everything. Just then, Jasmine came bounding up the sidewalk, her face flushed with excitement. Sarah, Mike, you've got to come quick. The Galactic Council is making an announcement, and it's about Earth. They hurried to the community center, now outfitted with holographic displays and real-time universal translators. The residents of Maplewood Lane gathered around, a tapestry of humans and aliens united in anticipation. The holographic image of the Galactic Council chamber flickered to life. A being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting, addressed the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. Esteemed colleagues, it began, its voice resonating with power and wisdom, we have witnessed something extraordinary. The beings of Earth, long considered a primitive species unready for galactic society, have proven us wrong in the most spectacular fashion. The energy beings formed coalesced into a replica of Maplewood Lane. This unremarkable suburban neighborhood demonstrated levels of ingenuity, adaptability, and unity that rival the greatest achievements in Confederation history. They did not cower in the face of the unknown. They embraced it, challenged it, and emerged victorious. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien cheers, whoops, and other, less identifiable sounds of approval. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat as the energy being continued. It is therefore the decision of this council to extend an invitation to Earth, not merely as a protectorate or an observational outpost, but as full members of the Galactic Confederation, with all the rights, responsibilities, and opportunities it entails. The community center exploded with joy. Humans and aliens alike embraced, their differences forgotten in the face of this monumental announcement. Sarah found herself swept up in a group hug, sandwiched between Mike, Jasmine, Zaxnar, and Mrs. Abernathy, who was already planning the menu for the welcome to the Galaxy potluck. As the celebration raged on, Sarah slipped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. She gazed up at the night sky, the stars now holding the promise of new worlds, new adventures, and new friends waiting to be made. A shooting star streaked across the heavens, and Sarah smiled, remembering a lifetime ago when she would have wished upon it. Now she realized humanity's greatest wishes were coming true, not through idle dreams, but through the power of community, creativity, and the indomitable human spirit. Maplewood Lane, this unassuming suburban cul-de-sac, had become the launchpad for Earth's greatest adventure. And as Sarah watched a group of alien children chasing fireflies and a few bioluminescent alien insects across her front lawn, she knew that the galaxy would never be the same. After all, if a ragtag group of suburbanites could fight off space pirates, broker interstellar peace, and revolutionize the cosmic fast food industry in the span of a few weeks, imagine what humanity could accomplish now that the entire universe was their playground. The suburban stardust had settled, but Earth's cosmic block party was just getting started, and Sarah Chen, former high school science teacher turned galactic diplomat, couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. As she turned to rejoin the celebration, a mischievous grin spread across her face. "Hey Zaxnar," she called out, "how do you feel about a little road trip? I hear Alpha Centauri is lovely this time of year, and I've got a minivan with a newly installed warp drive." The universe, it seemed, would never be ready for the ingenuity, spirit, and slightly chaotic energy of suburban Earth. And that, Sarah realized, was exactly what made it so exciting. The cul-de-sac crusade had evolved into the suburban stardust saga, and every being in the galaxy was along for the ride.